What's up, guys? Coming to you with another live from LA. Hope you guys are all doing good out there. I'm gonna do a video on the upcoming UFC fight this Saturday. It's gonna be on October 10th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. The headline is gonna be Marlon Moraes against Corey Sandhagen. I think that one's gonna be a war. I think that's gonna be a finish. I'm gonna be talking about it right now. And I'm gonna get into some of the other fights. And yeah, let's jump right into it, guys. So, I mean, UFC has been hectic with all the things that have been happening lately in terms of going back and forth with uh, Abu Dhabi, right? And how they're organizing things. But I think Dana White is definitely on the right track in terms of getting it done. I mean, he's certainly an example for all the other sports to follow. So, I mean, as hectic as things have been with the UFC, I'm so glad that they've been able to make these fights happen because I love the UFC and I love what they've done to the sport of mixed martial arts in terms of bringing it up to where it should be. I mean, previously there was Strike Force and then there was Pride, right? So yeah, glad to see where UFC is right now and happy to see what they're doing. So let's jump right into the fights, guys. All right, I did a video previously saying who's gonna win this fight. I think that Marlon Moraes is gonna beat up Corey Sandhagen. Not only does he have more experience, but I mean, when you look at both fighters, you have to look at who they won and who they lost to, because who Corey Hagen, I mean, what am I saying? Who Corey Sandhagen lost to, right? Was against Aljamain Sterling. But the thing is, Marlon Moraes beat Aljamain Sterling. So, and Aljamain Sterling is as tough as nails. I mean, he's on a new run for himself. So, Aljamain's doing really good right now. But Marlon Moraes has beaten him. So, when you look at all the other fighters of who these two fought, I mean, he's fought Jimmy Rivera, you know, um, and there was one fighter other than Henry Cejudo who Marlon Moraes lost to, and his name is Rafael Asunciano, but he was able to exact his revenge by fighting him a second time and beating him via submission. And Corey Sandhagen actually also beat the same person as well, Rafael Asunciano, and then he lost to Aljamain Sterling. So um, while Corey Sandhagen is new, I don't want to say new to the UFC, but considering the people he's fought and considering the people Marlon has fought, I mean, it's really uncomparable whenever you consider which fighter is going to be bringing in more of the competition. I feel like the word competition and hunger go together because if you're really hungry, then you're really competitive. While at the same time, when you're really competitive, you're also hungry, right? Kind of the same thing, but not exactly the same thing. But here's another fighter Marlon Moraes has beat. He's beaten Jose Aldo. I mean, yeah, you can say it's a washed up Jose Aldo ever since he fought Connor and got knocked out real quick. But the only fighter that Marlon Moraes has actually lost to was Henry Cejudo. And yeah, he lost to the Rafael Asunciano guy. I can't really pronounce his last name, but he was able to beat him in the second fight. So he got that he got that little like victory over Rafael, and was able to exact his revenge. But other than that fight, when you look at who Marlon Moraes has lost to, I mean, Triple C. I mean, double champ, right? And he's coming back now. And other than that, I mean, Marlon Moraes has literally beaten all of his opponents. I mean, Corey Sandhagen has a good record. He's 12-2, but Marlon has more than twice the fights on him. So I'm easily choosing actually Marlon to win this fight. So I think Marlon definitely has what it takes, even though he has a small reach. What's his reach? It's 67-70. So Corey Sandhagen has a 70-inch reach. Marlon has a 67-inch reach. So I won't. I don't. These are just stats, but the way Marlon fights, he gets up close. So Corey's longer arms might even give him an issue if Marlon Moraes presses forward, in which I do believe he will, because that's just his fighting style. Marlon likes to put the pressure on people, fight up close, and win as in any way he can. He's good on the ground and he's good on his feet, so it's definitely a good idea to consider the statistics and also consider the fight style at the same time. But you have to be careful, like I said, that the stats don't really show the reality of how each fighter, prepares themselves. But looking at some of the other stats, Marlon is a little bit shorter. He's 5'5", while Corey Sandhagen's 5'9", and then the age, obviously, Corey Sandhagen is younger, of course. He's 28, while Marlon Moraes is 32. Um, and like I've always said in my MMA review videos, that I always look at hunger whenever it comes to choosing which fighter is gonna win. And I think in this case, I think Marlon too is actually more hungry. So yeah, I mean, Corey's a good guy. I mean, I think he's beaten all of his opponents in pretty spectacular fashion recently. I mean, he's beaten uh, Mario Bautista via submission. That was a fight night as well. And John Lineker is a name who he beats. John Lineker's pretty tough, so can't really disregard that win over Lineker. But he was lost via submission to Aljamain Sterling in his last fight. So we'll see what happens Saturday night, right? But now I'm gonna be choosing Marlon, and I certainly don't think that will. So yeah, Marlon Moraes is gonna win just because of the overwhelming information that's out here, pretty much. When you compare them, I mean, like who each fighter has fought. I mean, Marlon Moraes has literally fought killers. He's lost Henry Cejudo only, realistically, because whenever he fought Rafael Asuncao, I really don't know how to pronounce that last name. Um, he's beat him back, so he lost to him, but then he got the win over him. So yeah, I mean, Henry Cejudo is pretty much the only one Marlon has really lost to. Whenever you look at the win lose each of these fighters. And Corey also, I mean, Corey Sandhagen lost to a stud as well. I mean, Aljamain Sterling, you can't count him out, right? It's Aljamain Sterling, Aljo. So we'll see what happens Saturday night. But stand up while you watch this fight, because I don't think it's gonna go to the decision. All the exciting fights, I always watch them standing up, because I mean, I just know that it's gonna, be exciting. Like there's fights where I just sit down naturally, and then there's the fights where you want to just be standing up, like the Connor fight. I think this fight is also one of those where you want to be standing up. So That's certainly what I'll be doing. So it'll be an interesting night indeed. Let's see here. Let's jump into the next fight. Well, the next fight is gonna be Edson Barboza against Makwan Amirkhani. Amirkhani has been building a name for himself recently. I haven't really watched his fights, but I've continued to hear his name, so it looks like he's been able to bring himself up the ranks. He's fighting Edson Barboza, and I said in one of the last videos, Edson Barboza's fought killers his entire career. I mean, he's 20-9, but those 9 people he lost to, half of them were studs, just like Aljamain Sterling, as an example, in the UFC. So, um, I mean, who knows how Edson's gonna show up Saturday night? I mean, this dude has some vicious kicks. He hasn't really been presenting it in his recent fights, but if Edson Barboza gets the hunger that he once had, I think he will demolish Makwar Amir Khani. Though I haven't really watched his fights, but I know Edson is definitely a stud, and I think he can do really well because Makwan, I think I've only watched one of his fights, but yeah, I just really don't know much I just don't know much to really say about Makwan Amir Khani, but what I can say is that Edson's fought killers while this guy hasn't. So keep that in mind. Um, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I should cover on this fight, but I will do a little bit of research on Makwan and give you guys another input on who I think is going to be winning this fight between Edson Barboza and Makwan, which is the co-main event of this entire fight card of Marlon Moraes against Corey Sandhagen, which is going to be on October 10 again at 5 p.m. So on ESPN Plus. So I'll probably do another video talking about the co-main Edson against Makwan. So I'll give you guys more of an input on that, on who I think will be the victor. And then we have the third fight, Ben Rothwell against Marcin Tybura. That's definitely gonna be another fight where I'm gonna be standing up because that one is not gonna go to decision at all, at all, at all. That one is gonna definitely end in a KO or TKO. So don't blink, guys. And that's one of the reasons why I stand up watching these fights sometimes, depending on which fight it is, of course, right? And then the fourth fight is Marcus Perez. I've heard of him. He's 12-3 against Dricus Duplessis, and I have not heard of that guy. And I'm seeing a lot of new names. Let me look at the prelim card. Yeah, the prelim card is literally all new names, and I like the fact that UFC is kind of moving on from these older fighters. Well, not older fighters, but the fighters that have just been in the UFC for a long time that just aren't in the position to get a title shot again. And I like the fact that they're bringing these new up and coming fighters that can put themselves in the position where they do have a good chance of getting a title shot. And it's always the competition that makes sports in general interesting, right? So I think this is an excellent shift that the UFC has made because they've just literally been using their old fighters to, put on a fight card. So, like, I mean, some of these old faces like Donald Cerrone, Tyron Woodley, Diego Sanchez. I mean, these guys, have all had their time. They've all had their moment. But realistically, whenever you notice that a fighter's just coming in for payday and they're not really into it anymore, I mean, that's kind of like okay, it's like why is he even on the fight card? I mean, he's just fighting to fight. I like rankings. I like rankings because rankings show the real competition. I mean, I know when there's money to be made and they just forget about the rankings and put on a fight like the Conor and Floyd event, but I prefer right now that the UFC stay with the rankings and uh, go with that strictly because like again, Cerrone, Woodley, and Sanchez, I think they've been good. They've had their time. They've been interesting, but it's seriously time to let them go because I don't think I like those are just examples. There's lots of fighters in the UFC that aren't hungry enough to get another title shot. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think about it. And then we also have the John Jones and Israel Adesanya beef heating up too. So that's gonna be an interesting fight. And I still got Izzy winning that fight. I had Izzy. Again, I had Izzy winning against Paulo Costa on the last fight, and I got Izzy winning against John Jones in the next fight. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, uh, until the Izzy and John Jones thing is actually set, let's focus on Saturday night, and I think that one's gonna be interesting. So I'll be doing more videos up until then. But go ahead and drop your comments. Let me know what you guys think about which fighter is gonna win and where each fighter is positioned and where they're gonna be going. So um, yeah, I'll pretty much do more videos on this um on the fight day and probably one tomorrow too. So we'll see what happens up until then. I mean, there could be a drop. Someone can drop out of the card. So who knows, right? Um, Last minute changes always tend to take place. So we'll see what happens. But tune in on Saturday, guys. It's gonna be a good one. The prelim starts at 2 p.m., but the main card starts at 5 p.m. Just wanted to say that. Didn't mention the prelim earlier, so and it'll be stacked. It'll be interesting. These are all I like new names because new names bring new competition. So it's good to see that the UFC's made that change. Good for them. Nonetheless, guys, be safe out there. Be well. Subscribe, like, drop some